Did you ever wonder what non-Long Islanders think of us? Well, 2 Uniondale High School grads made a movie about that very topic. My Block, Strong Island.
Do you know why we're here? Well, almost 10 years ago, there were a group of friends who were determined to make others see what they saw, to see what their home meant to them, and to make others see that their small town mattered too. But today, one of those friends is no longer with us. Tyrell Spencer passed away shortly after the releasing of their first film. Although broken from tragic loss, they are not done yet, and the story must continue.
If I was listening to somebody's story about, the hardships and the problems that arise, where they come from, the stereotypes, just everything, and how much pressure is built on, the certain people of that community, I would listen to the story.
I mean, I figured you can't talk about something not unless you actually lived here, because it's hard for me every day. I have to get up and I have to take those buses right over there. Those buses that you pass, nobody gives me nothing.
I don't know, I've never heard anything good about Long Island.
I already see that's what we like right there, because there's a lot of people talking mess about Long Island. We just want to know from every borough what you guys personally think about Long Island.
I think Long Island is mad corny.
Don't?
Y'all need to be with Queens because Queens is popping and Long Island have mad white people and Spanish people like her.
I'm black.
Right?
I'm in Long Island.
What part of Long Island?
I'm from Nassau.
Everybody from the city, they be like, oh, Long Island's too quiet out there. There's nothing to do out there. The city is where it's at. Everybody has fun here. All we do is party all day, all night.
So I didn't even know they had any black folks out there, man.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's totally new to me, man. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I didn't even know they had any black folks in Long Island. Right now, I gotta go.
Now, what you just saw with my friends and I back in 2008, running the streets of New York trying to find out what people thought of our home. We just wanted to prove to everybody that it didn't matter that we weren't from one of the boroughs. We were from Long Island, and we were proud of that. But today, it's much different. It was hard for blacks to move here. Matter of fact, it's hard for blacks to live here. I believe that if people and kids knew their families' histories and stories, then their pride would be like mine. Let's see.
The experiences I dealt with in the South was so much more harsher, very much harsher. I mean, I was coming up as a young kid. The Ku Klux Klan was very, very prevalent there in the South. It was if you lived in, where you lived at, where we lived was right between, the black community was over here. We were right between, because my dad was a supervisor at the mine, and the white people lived on the hill over here. So if you went out of your community where they didn't know you, now you can expect anything. But the people in New York would be racist, but they wasn't to the fact that they would actually go out and hang you like they were in the South when I was a kid. You could get hung by the Ku Klux Klan down there during those years. Does that kind of shake you up, Dominique?
I mean, I know about it from reading about it.
Yeah. Well, I actually lived it.
Open your eyes and tell me what you see. New York, right? But do you see us? How did we get here? Long Island.
I'll be honest, growing up, I used to tell my mother, like, why would you bring me out here?
I was from East Flatbush, Brooklyn. I thought Long Island was soft. My mom's told me we had to go. I was vexed.
My dad was offered a job as principal of Wyandanch High School. He took the job and we left Connecticut and moved to Hempstead, Long Island.
My family started out in South Carolina, and my mom and dad When they got married, they moved to Chicago, and then they decided they were going to move to New York and found a place here in Long Island in Hempstead.
In transition, we stayed at our grandparents' crib in South Ozone Park, and then my parents saw the opportunity where they could buy the crib, and they said, yeah, the availability was in Roosevelt, ain't too far.
Why are you asking me?
How'd your family get in?
My family's white.
Your family's
So-
white?
I don't know. I would assume the same way they came to America.
I don't know. Black people just go wherever they gotta go to do what they gotta do to survive.
Certainly the first black people to come to Hempstead were brought specifically to do work. The people who had settled, the Dutch who had settled this area, the area of Hempstead, wrote to the Dutch East India Company and said, send us Negroes. We need them to work on our farms and help build the roads. So they specifically made an effort to bring them in as laborers on Long Island in the 1600s.
Oh, I had great expectations. I thought I'd come to New York, get a high-paying job, and get rich before you know it. Well, still working on that.
I feel you, Pops. Now let's take 'em up. Welcome to Long Island, New York. Ooh, home of the porches. Do you know why we're here now? You know what the better question is? Where are you from? And how did your family get there? Like, look at me. I'm from Baldwin, but I say I'm from Uniondale. I just got with that lifestyle more. My friends were there, I went to school there, and I just couldn't get with that Baldwin stereotype, and neither could my family. And when you look at America, everybody want to be a part of the big city. But most of y'all grew up in those suburb communities right on the outside, just like me. But I ain't pointing the spotlight on anybody, because this movie right here, it's about Long Island. And it's about how black people played a pivotal role in Long Island being important in American history. And by the end of it, I want you to look at your own history, families, neighborhoods, so you could be prideful just like me. There's power in clarity, and ain't all of us could be a part of the big cities, and that's all right. This right here is Long Island, Strong Island.
That's all I know is about Hempstead. I don't know about over here.
Strong Island.
If you're not in this movie, it's because Shun left you out.
No. This is my block, Strong Island.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
You came straight from Africa to Long Island. Is that what?
Of course not. That's not how it went.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to get into your mind.
Well, I thought you knew something that I didn't.
It's not what about I know. You got
we
me
looking
on.
here now?
Yeah, I mean.
Oh.
This is your interview. I don't want to get all up in the camera. You know
No,
what
but
I'm
you're
saying?
teaching me something different. It's something
I'm trying to see where your mind is at. This
I
interview
really
is
don't
to
know.
see, to pick your mind. That's okay. That's okay not
It's
to
not
know.
something I've never looked into.
Okay, is it something that matters to you? You think the history of Long Island matters to you?
It should.
So the answer is...
It does. It should, but it doesn't really.
No?
I came up during the Great Migration from the South to the North because I was 3 years old when I came. I remember, and I bet you can't believe it, but I remember being this little girl sitting in the car, and apparently we were coming to New York. But I remember sitting in the car with my mother and my grandmother, and this man driving the car.
Well, as kids, my parents went up to New York first to have a life for us. Then they came back and got all the kids.
My parents moved into Hempstead in 1954. I was born in 1952. And at that time, there was a big migration of black families moving into Hempstead.
My uncle, who lives in New York, came down one summer to visit, and he said, "Oh, you have a degree, and I just opened up this school in New York, and I would like for you to teach there." So that's how I got to New York.
New Yorkers are made up of a lot of Carolinians and Virginia folks. They came up the quickest way north to get a job.
When I moved from the South up to New York, I said, I want a job. I was 13 years old. I got my first job. I went away at a camp to work with this family, a white family. They had 2 kids, husband and wife, and we went to a cabinet, and I had my own cabinet, but I took care of those 2 kids.
Aiken was a place that you wanted to leave as soon as you could get out of there. That's what I did as soon as I turned 18 years old.
Long Island is a place of contrasts, of diversity, of both people and places. From the Queens County line to Montauk Point. That's 100 miles, and it's filled with the greatest variety of things and people you're likely to find anywhere.
I know I'm not the only one who just saw that. And nah, that wasn't an error. Like, that actually happened. That was a piece that was done on Long Island a lot of years ago. But you can't say diversity and not show it on the screen. And I sure enough didn't see any black faces, I'll just be honest. But hey, listen, that's why I'm here. To tell our story and to show everyone else how our hands were in the building blocks of Long Island just like anybody else. But we gotta move on because it's time for people to see what actually happened when black people tried to move to Long Island.
Originally, when we decided we wanted to leave the apartment life and purchase a house, we tried to move into Queens. No, let me backtrack. We really tried to we looked in Brooklyn first, but where I wanted to live, we weren't welcomed. It was a very dominated Jewish community area and even Italian area, and you weren't welcome there. So we one day just got on the Parkway and just started driving we were on the Belt Parkway from community to community. We stopped in at Howard Beach. We weren't welcome there. The agent actually told us that he could lose his license if he sold us a house there because we would not be welcome there.
A 23-year-old African-American man named Michael Griffith was killed in a racist attack in Howard Beach, Queens. He was attacked by a group of white teenagers outside a pizzeria and chased onto a highway where he was hit by a car and killed.
And I got out of the service in January of 1949, and that's when that whole experience that I looked in the Daily Mirror and I saw this ad for veterans, that they were building housing for veterans on Long Island. So we finally found Levittown, and we didn't pay attention to the fact that we were the only blacks looking at the model houses, you know. So we went out there and we walked through the house and so forth. So then I walked up to the salesman and I said to the salesman, sir, I like the house very much. I'm a veteran and I'm interested. And would you be kind enough to give me the particulars on how we can move forward with this process so that I can acquire one? And he looked at me and he said, it's not me, but the owners, the management of this company has not as yet decided to sell these homes to Negroes. I was shocked. I mean, when on the ride back to Harlem, I mean, I just never expected that in New York State. Because during my years in the service, we would tease Southerners about what they could do, what they couldn't do, and so on, but not New York.
They were afraid that if the Levitts sold to anyone other than whites, that they would have a problem selling, or that the area would become a slum. I mean, he's talking about having people come home as veterans. I mean, veteran. It doesn't say, you know, whether they're green, yellow with, you know, red stripes. They're veterans. That's the people you should think of with housing. But unfortunately, between FHA and the town of Hempstead and so forth, I feel the Levitts backed down and decided that, well, at this point, they're just going to sell to whites.
The bitterest of ironies, to me, is the black man who could work hours a day building Levittown, yet not even be allowed to get an application to rent or buy in the community.
The one thing about Long Island that we'd have to say is that Long Island is one of the most segregated neighborhoods in all of America. Because you could be on Washington Avenue, on Clinton Avenue, and you're over here seeing multi-million-dollar houses, and you go over those tracks and things change.
It's that Mason-Dixon
top,
line.
right?
It's the Mason-Dixon line. That whole
like
thing changes. Yeah, but watch this. It goes from terrace, and you see the hood, you see everything. Then you got the buffer. You got the buffer. The buffer is the car dealerships.
Yeah.
Once you start to see the car dealership, you start to forget. Like, all right, I'm looking at the cars. Then you go right across that street, that one street, where's a pop law that runs like that, and then you right in Garden City. Everything's different. You look behind you, you see terrace. You look in front of you, you see opportunity.
The good thing about Long Island is, I mean, it's segregated as hell, but it kind of works. Yeah. Because everybody is in the same area. Right.
Racism has never gone away. It's here. I wish I could say I knew what to do about it. I don't.
So, you know, yes, everything is lovely. It's a great country, what have you, but there's some things that gotta be worked out. But still, those same ghosts are still with us since 1865. So no matter where you go in this country, much less on Long Island, you know, you're gonna find dead ends. You're gonna come up across certain people or certain groups that say, "No, you're not welcomed here."
I said, "You're not gonna get this house here like that." So she said, "Well, let's proceed." I said, "All right." So we went to the door and we knocked. He said, "You got an ad in the paper here where you want to rent this house." He said, "Yeah, but I rented it." This was in January. He said, "Yeah, but I rented it December." I said, "Well, why are you running the ad?" He said, "Well, it just ain't took it out."
And in those days, I want you to understand, you would say, well, why didn't you sue? But there were no laws like that about civil rights, and you didn't have anyone to advise you on. I don't know whether New York State had anti-discrimination laws in those days. I don't think so, because they had restrictive covenants that you couldn't sell a house to a black even if you wanted to, okay, in those days. So there was nothing to do but suck it up.
Suck it up. Now, I'm not even gonna ask you what you would do if someone told you, hey, listen, you can't live there and you gotta suck it up. But all these stories that I'm hearing from all these older people and making this film, and they add up with stories that I've heard with my own family, it don't make you feel good. That number, that adding that don't make you feel okay. But I guess learning and knowing your history is more important than how I feel right now. But what I want to know and what I think is important is, where did we go? If we couldn't live at this neighborhood or this town, then where did we end up?
So we went back home, and sometime after that, I saw another ad that said, regardless of race, creed, or color, they're building homes in Amityville, Long Island, for everyone. It was a community of people of substance. All these black people. Those were the most beautiful days of my life.
Hempstead, at that time in the 50s and 60s, was more or less a small microcosm of black, middle class, progressive people.
The decision was I wanted a better life for my children. I knew that classroom settings were small in Long Island. Being a teacher myself, I had classes that were sometimes 40 students in a class. And it was crammy and everything, and I wanted more for my children. And so the next thing you knew, the drive just brought us out toward Long Island. We had never been out here, you know, but it was almost like when you come from a really urban setting like in Brooklyn, we thought we almost like went to heaven because you saw trees and, you know, and less noise, etc., you know, and so that's what actually brought us into Long Island.
I mean, I can even remember when we first got married, we was looking for an apartment in, was it Uniondale, borderline in Uniondale. Mm-hmm. It was a park complex in Uniondale on Greenwich. And we was discouraged. Now this is in '87. We was discouraged by the realtor to even get an apartment in that complex. Now, this is in '87. So if this happened in '87 to us, young couple, newly married, you can imagine what was going on during the '60s and the '70s.
So the first problem that I would like to mention to you this afternoon is a problem of racial injustice. Certainly this problem is one of the great problems facing our nation and the world. Racial injustice is still the Negro's burden and America's shame. While we have made strides in solving this problem, we must honestly face the fact that we still have a long, long way to go before the problem is solved.
I remember going into New Hyde Park with my father, and we went to get some lunch, and they wouldn't even serve us back then.
It's 3 black kids going to the skating rink, and you know we're gonna pay to go in just to go roller skating. And we get there, and it's like 3 in the afternoon, and the guy says, "Well, we're gonna close, and you guys aren't gonna have enough time to skate, so I'm not gonna take your money." And I'm like, "We took a bus, you know, to get here. We came here to skate. I waited for 5 minutes."
My wife and me, we got a call from the teacher saying, "David is gonna fail." And my wife says, "What the hell? What the fuck is going on here? Well, he just started school there, he's gonna fail?" She went down there and she said, "You just started, what do you mean he's gonna fail?" "Well, he probably came from deprived atmosphere." Of course, teachers identified me and my black wife because my brown kids were going to school here.
I remember with my brother, Michael, the youngest one. I'd come home from college my freshman year, and we were dancing outside. You know, it was summer, you know, and a car full of young white guys pulled up. You know, they yelled out some slurs, and they shot at us with BB guns, because BB guns were the thing then. They could put your eye out, but they wouldn't kill you as fast.
I had a Jewish lawyer at that time, God bless his soul. So he bought the bank, of course. In those days, they wasn't giving mortgages to black people. So he knew this banker, and he was gonna get me this mortgage. So he bought the banker, and him and we went to look at the house. And the woman across the street came running out into the street, "Judas, Judas! Christ, Judas sold Christ for 30 silver pieces, Judas!" Hollering at the people who was gonna sell us the house. So that it was after that the Civic Association put up the $1,000 and blocked me from buying the house.
And I've had occasions where I would call up and make an appointment to show a house. And by me having sort of a southern accent, they always thought I was white. When I get there, open the door and see I'm not white. One occasion in West Hempstead, a guy tried to sick his dog on me. And I had a white client with me. So the guy that was with me couldn't believe. He said, I can't believe he wants to sick his dog on German police. He didn't know I get along with dogs too. So I petted the dog. But it didn't keep me from doing business. I just kept going on from one place to the other.
When a lot of folks think about racism and segregation, they think of the South. They think of the Jim Crow South. But the North was no slouch when it came to these practices. The northern suburbs in particular were very adept at what we call institutional racism. That is, practices and policies that either are perpetuated or enabled by government or by major institutions like the realty industry. The problem is that it's very hard, even now, for black families to move into these neighborhoods and avail their children of the best and the latest.
What I want everybody to understand is Long Island was yesterday and still is today one of the battlegrounds for equality and for peace for all races. Segregation is real in suburban neighborhoods all over America. Long Island being the first to neighborhoods just like Ferguson. It wasn't easy to get here, and it was tough to stay here. But now that we're here, let's fast forward and see what those neighborhoods and communities look like today.
You better rep yours. Every single city better rep yours. Every single clique better rep yours. Every single set better rep yours. If not, you rep yours. Rep yours, rep my city. Yo, to the feds. Rep yours, rep your city. Who with it? Rep yours, who with it? Who with it? Rep yours, rep your city. Who with it?
It's only so many parts on Long Island that have black people. So if you black and you from Long Island, you only from a couple of parts. Right. You from Uniondale, you from Roosevelt, you from Hempstead. The people who are in these parts, they're not rich. You know what I'm saying? If you're rich, you're not living in Hempstead. You're not living in Uniondale. You're not living in Baldwin. You're not living. You might be living in Baldwin Harbor. You're not living in Freeport. You're living in Suffolk.
When I moved here, it was like gradient. It was like a gradient of like 60% white, 40% black.
Then towards the late 60s, early 70s, there was white flight.
White flight.
White flight.
White flight.
White flight was stirred up by realtors, and with the help of the county or the town, in 3 or 4 years, an all-white neighborhood could become almost entirely African American.
By the next year, it was 60-40 the other way, and by the next year, it was like almost like 80-20, and then the next year, it's about 73. It was like 95-5.
One by one, folks just started moving out. All the white people.
If you look at the whole dichotomy of the whole changing of the culture of the neighborhoods within Nassau County, and you could say Suffolk as well, there's still certain pockets, but some pockets are changing, but slowly. If you want to go to Amityville, Wyandanch, Babylon, you know what I mean? You already know when you hear those words, oh yeah, black folks live there. You know what I mean? You already know.
Do you know people who are from Long Island but will say they're from somewhere else?
Oh, definitely. Oh, that's one of my biggest pet peeves too. Everybody that's big is from Brooklyn, from Queens, from Harlem. That's where everybody wants to be from. Oh, I'm from Queens, I'm from Brooklyn. When you only lived there for 2 years of your life, you lived in Brooklyn from birth to 3, and from 3 to 18 you've been living in Long Island. You're still telling people you're from Brooklyn. Like, no, you're not.
I think you have a lot of kids that are battling the Long Island's not a borough, and using it as a comparison and wanting to be like other boroughs instead of it being individuality.
You could be at a party or at a show, and they say, it's Brooklyn in the house, yeah! Queens in the house, yeah! Money making Manhattan, yeah! Then you waiting. Long Island, you waiting for Long Island, like double dutch, you just waiting. It don't
It's almost like Long Island was for, like, when you're retired, you know, it's the calm area.
Because back in the day, Manhattan ignored us. So we actually was drawing up a wall, said, forget, you know, we're gonna draw a line between Long Island and New York City. We're gonna build a wall.
I haven't really came across no one that was ashamed to say they from Long Island. You know, dudes can say Long Island is suburbs, but they keep forgetting that suburbs don't make the individual. The individual makes the individual, his experiences. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You could grow up in the projects in Brooklyn and still be soft.
Coming from Long Island, playing against the city kids, you know, you had to earn your way. You don't get much respect coming from the island. You know, looked at us as soft. You had to, you know, do extra things to make a name for yourself.
It's not all like flowers and gardens in Long Island everywhere, you know? It's just as, I don't mean to say this in a negative connotation, but it's just as rough, just as gritty, just as get your hands dirty.
When you talk about Black Long Island, a lot of these neighborhoods want to be known as the worst. Almost like, yeah, we want to be the hood of Long Island, right? We want to be, Roosevelt is poor as shit. Roosevelt's probably the worst part, Nassau, but Hempstead is what you think of when you think of poverty. You know what I'm saying? So
the opportunities that you have out here on the island, I'm not going to say that you wouldn't be able to get in Manhattan, in the city, or in Brooklyn, because they have a lot of opportunities as well. But I think the quality of life that you have here on Long Island is bar none. Is bar none. You know what I mean? It was back in when we came up, if you said you was from Long Island, you ain't want to say you was from Long Island. You was like, when you from, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from Queens. You know what I mean? But now, you know, with Public Enemy, Chuck, you know, Flav, you know, and everything like that, you know what I mean? And Eddie Murphy and whatnot, you know what I mean? You know, they put Long Island on the map. Now people kind of proud, say, yo, I'm from the island, Strong Island. You know what I mean? So, but back in the days, it wasn't always like that. Everybody wanted to be represent Harlem, Boogie Down Bronx, money making Manhattan. You know what I mean? But things have changed, and so people could be more proud. And then as you get older, you can realize, wow, what I had as a child, you could really appreciate it.
Hell no, I thought Long Island was soft. I was from East Flatbush, Brooklyn. I thought Long Island was soft. My mom's told me we had to go. I was vexed. I ain't even gonna front. I got to Long Island, I saw flower beds and shit, the newspaper boy in the morning. You know, I saw dew on the grass when I came outside. This shit I ain't never seen in BK, nigga. You know what I'm saying? So that type of shit to me was just a lot more intimate than Brooklyn. So at the end of the day, I just felt like this would dilute my rough and tough edge and shit.
Oh, if you moved out on Long Island, you had money, basically.
Or you trying to get it.
Yeah, Long Island is more than interesting. You know, I mean, because you can go to places and you can see $20 and $30 million homes, and obviously you can see shacks.
Because I remember that was the running joke in college, because I was from Long Island. It was, oh yeah, you got it, your parents got it. I mean, like, my parents are comfortable. They work hard for what they got. Don't get it twisted, but I mean, they're just living like every other person. They're not rich, they're not poor, they're fine.
Brooklyn was a decent, Flatbush was decent, but it had changed, and it wasn't a place to grow kids up like Long Island was. Long Island was completely different. We didn't have the gangs out here at that time. The gangs followed us out later.
They say he was a good kid in with the wrong crowd. Tonight, a family heartbroken after a 17-year-old boy is shot dead in the street. His killer on the loose.
Meanwhile, folks who live here on Hill Street say the shooting didn't startle them because a similar incident had happened in the neighborhood before.
Young man has been shot to death. Police were called here to Terrace Avenue in Hempstead last night.
Christopher Hamilton was gunned down, allegedly by an MS-13 gang member outside of a Brentwood house party.
And to Nassau, where police confirm an overnight shooting in Hempstead.
It happened at the corner of Main Street and Stowe Place around 3:15 this morning.
Uniondale teen is accused of stealing cars that people were warming up.
The hunt for whomever gunned down a man in Hempstead.
Accused of opening fire on a teenage girl and 3 men on a busy Hempstead street.
You know, Black Long Island, it's poverty, it's, you know, people getting shot.
And Long Island ain't no cakewalk either. You know, growing up, there's a ghetto everywhere. And anywhere you go, there's some hoods and there's some ghettos. But
a lot of people think when you're from Long Island, they just think automatically that you're just this rich kid, you have a ton of money, and it's really not like that. It wasn't all fun and games. I also grew up in Roosevelt, so I live with rats, I live with roaches, and I know what it's like. So for people to kind of sit there and be like, "Oh, you guys all have all this money," it's just like it's really not true at all.
So people sometimes say, "Oh, Long Island got no hoods." I mean, don't get it twisted. I'm not comparing Long Island to some of the crazy places in the boroughs and stuff, but at the same time, I mean, shit happens out here. It is what it is.
Because if everybody knew about these parts of Long Island, then they wouldn't want to come to Long Island like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you also got to keep it in perspective. We're an hour and a half from what everybody really thinks of Long Island, the Hamptons.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of Long Island, you think of the Hamptons and places like that. We're closer to Queens. We're closer to Queens.
Yeah.
We're closer to Manhattan than we're closer to the Hamptons. So we're not even close to that Long Island that everybody sees. And I mean,
y'all niggas know, nigga, y'all niggas is in Long Island, nigga, where the grass is greener, nigga. These is thugs with money, nigga.
And a lot of people don't know is that Long Island has just as much violence, just as much filth. You know, everywhere you go, there's gonna be what you would call the projects or the ghetto.
This is us right here, nigga. We own this shit. Y'all niggas see my face, be very afraid, nigga. I'm a problem for real, nigga. I'm really stressed out, and I really want to take it out on one of you niggas out there. So come see me, nigga.
I mean, at nighttime you can hear shots fired from my house. We lived on Cedar Street, and you can hear shots fired. Cause us concern for our own children.
I grew up in Hempstead. I did not experience any of what I see going on in Hempstead.
Our children are being slaughtered in the streets, and money is not being put back into our kids at all. How many rallies have we gone to tell Nassau County the first thing to go is the youth budget? That's true. And that's a problem.
Well, it is kind of ghetto because I see people getting shot every day on the street. You know. I see dead cats on the street, flat out dead. It's unbelievable.
My Hempstead is ghetto. Do you see the problems? Teens are out of control. Nowadays, more teens are doing things like teen pregnancy, sex, gun violence, and death.
Some things we can do to stop this is to get the moms involved. The moms should talk to girls about the importance of being protected while having sex. The dads should tell the boys to wear protection. Help us, help Hempstead. And the title of her poem is The Black Sunflower.
What you think will save it? Can anything save it?
Yeah, if Obama will give us some money, like, come on, you got all that money at the White House, like, help us out over here. Money don't grow on trees.
My company.
And West Hempstead money growing on trees?
West Hempstead, yeah. My house is big. And it's actually like I could walk around the block and I wouldn't hear like cursing, I wouldn't hear people yelling at each other. It would be like quiet. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
and then I come here.
I've been sleeping when gunshots be happening. I'm hearing it in the morning. Oh, which car got shot yesterday? It was right by your house. Oh, I didn't hear nothing. So I'll be here. But it's real sad what's going on around here.
I covered a lot of homicides where I come upon the scene as a young black man, young black youth, lying there in the street. And we're the ones that have to tell the parents that your son or daughter has been tragically taken away from you. And after a while, when I see this enough, you know, when I see that child, I got 3 sons also. So that affects me more than my counterparts because that could be my son laying there.
My dad died about 3 years ago, and you know how you have that thing where you take the body past where it's lived, where it's been. I could hardly recognize downtown Hempstead. You know, when you're little, you look at places and they look so huge to you. But I went back and it seemed so small. It seemed so less prosperous. It was just so much less.
But the root of the problem is because the kids doesn't have a good home. And most of the time, they're not shown love at home the way most of our communities single parents are raising children, and they don't have fathers, and they don't have nobody to really guide them and, you know, be a man to tell them you can't do this.
My parents left after they retired. A lot of my friends' parents moved out of the village because they retired. So I guess that's another transitioning in your life. If you spent the majority of your lifetime in the village, now it's the next phase of your life. And that was really the reason that we left, for a better quality of life. And I don't say that to say that there is a quality of life in the village of Hempstead, but between the quality of life that I had growing up and the quality of life that's there now, it's remarkably different. And I want to give the kids, my children, the same chance that I had when I grew up, that quality of life. And I can't give it to them in the village of Hempstead, but I can give it to them here.
If we're the suburbs and people can't live in the suburbs, then what's the point? What are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Then we're not taking care of our neighborhoods. We're not really taking care of. But, you know, I mean, different things are celebrated, and especially in like the entertainment industry. If you come from, you know, nothing and you make it to something, that's more celebrated than somebody who came from something and made it to more something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So.
You know, I don't even care about what it means to be black anymore. Like, when I think about it, it's like, if being black means that I have to be rough and tough and destroy my neighborhood, then I don't want that. And yeah, someone looking at me right now, and it's like, yo, it doesn't mean you have to destroy your neighborhood, but that's what we're doing. Long Island, I'm sorry, but Long Island's home to me, and I love it. And what I see going on, I'm not happy. But then I look at places like this. I'm 27 years old, and I didn't even know this existed, and this is 8 miles away from where I grew up. I could have created so many memories here with my best friends. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy for the memories I have, but we could have rode our bikes here. It's not that far. This was here for us too. And one day, I want to be able to bring my kids here one day and say, hey, listen, not only did I miss out on this, but let me take you to the street I grew up on. Let me show you the ice cream trucks that I used to chase down the street. The point of living in the suburbs is so you could play in the yard. Let me show you this. But if we destroy it, then I have nowhere to come, and that's not cool to me. I want to come home. I'm proud to be where I'm from. I'm from Long Island, home of the squirrels, the ponds, the turtles, and the sticks. You be where you from, I'll be where I'm from. But I know what love is, and I'm in love with Long Island. I'm coming home.
I like growing up in Long Island for myself. I wouldn't want to stay here. I feel like it's more money motivated. I'm not a money motivated person. I like being comfortable.
I love Long Island. Like, people always say, oh, you're from Long Island, I don't know, you're rich, you're bougie, blah, blah, blah. But we're not. Like, we have a little bit of everything.
Everybody thinks that everything on Long Island is sunshine and paradise. And it is sometimes, but we got like the best of both worlds.
I was blessed to grow up here in Roosevelt, Long Island, you know what I mean? I always tell my friends, yo, you know how lucky we were.
I'm proud to be from Hempstead because I know what Hempstead has done for me as a community, as an education, and as a product of Hempstead. I mean, I was 2 years old, so I know nothing else but Hempstead as my home.
Still Brooklyn to the day I die, but I love houses. I love the houses in LI. I love my kids being all right in LI. You know what I'm saying? It's just comfort zone.
Long Island will always be what I said it was 7 years ago. Funky place, family, everybody's close. But like I said, I just needed to go out and experience more.
Niggas always say like, yo, we wish we was from somewhere else, but I don't Maybe when I'm 40, I can have more appreciation for Long Island. Like, yo, look back on shit like, Long Island did that for me. But as of right now, like,
I feel like as a human being, you should never stay where you are. You should always aspire to go somewhere greater. But I'll always come back home. Long Island will always be home. And when I walk these streets, I have fond memories and warmth in my heart because this will always be home no matter what.
Do you know what real love is? Real love? Man, that means you gotta have pride where you are from. Real love means you got the willingness to travel the distance to find the truth. Something about that real love means you ain't going nowhere and you better not forget. Where you going if you don't know the truth? It's been about 10 years now since I started this story, and yeah, maybe the faces and the cameras have changed a bit, but my heart has stayed the same. It's no secret that I love where I'm from. Now what about you?
I don't know, I just love that we're not like one little town. Like we're not like some
not
little
part of the borough.
Yeah, like we're not like a little, you know, West New Jersey. Long Island, it's 2.5 million people on this island.
Yeah.
You know, 1 million of them probably rep Brooklyn, but it's 2.5 million people on this island. So I just love Long Island. I love the fact that we're different.
Yeah, it's no better place than Long Island, period.
I love Long Island because I love that it's so quiet.
Right now, we in the heart of Queens. I came out here personally to see what's really different between Queens and Long Island. And I mean, for the most part, it's really not different.
When I was a kid, I would walk around or ride the bike around Roosevelt. There would be times, like 17 to 18, it'd be quiet, at night, nobody be out, and I'm riding, I said, damn, it feel good to be here.
I mean, Strong Island is a bunch of people that do what they gotta do to survive and go above surviving.
You always have a place in your heart for where you grew up.
It's just home to me.
In a sense, Long Island will always be home. After all, I'm an island girl. If it's not Jamaica, it is Long Island.
We almost like we're pioneers and grow up and to be the first black families in the white community and saying we going to raise a family here.
We were pioneers yesterday, we pioneers today, and we're gonna be pioneers tomorrow. The story can't continue if you don't know where it started. But now you know. Blacks changed Long Island, and for the better. And some crazy stuff happened, but it wouldn't be what it is today without us. So go find you some ears, go find some eyes, and let everybody know. It ain't enough just for you and I. This is my block, Strong Island.
Better rep yours. Every single city better rep yours. Every single clique better rep yours. Every single set better rep yours. If not, you rep yours. Rep yours, rep my city. Yo to the finish. Rep yours, rep your city. Who with it? Rep yours, who with it? Who with it? Rep yours, rep your city. Who with it?